All right, that little timer there tells me that we are live. Hello to the internet world. Welcome. I am checking to make sure that we are actually online. Give me 1 second. Yep, I can see it's uploading. The uploading process has begun. I like to see it anyhow before I say hello to have to say it again. Nice. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Okay. Robin? Hi. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And if you ever decide to have a podcast, I hope you're lucky enough to have a fan like Robin. Robin is an angel. I would like to say welcome to Ashli Mason, my guest for this week. Welcome, Ashli.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. This is so much fun.
I am so grateful to have you. Very, very grateful. And there is so much for us to learn from you. And I am so appreciative of the time that you're giving to us. So I want to dig right in.
Man, I am so excited. Let's jump in.
Let's do it. For those people that might not know who you are, because to me, you're a goddess. I mean, I just love you so much.
Thank you. That just made my day.
Could you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell them a little bit about who are you?
Oh, that is such a big question. So my name is Ashli Mason. I started a business about 3 years ago with my husband, and we knew absolutely nothing about business. And then in a matter of 3 years, we've created a couple of businesses. I also work as a right hand to a very prominent multi-million dollar, business that has many, many, many subscribers. And I've learned so much on all of those travels. But at the core of all of this, I feel like I'm still a teacher. I still homeschool my kids. I have a big mom heart. And I think learning and teaching is still just at my core, no matter how many business things I end up doing. But that's a little bit about me.
Wow, just a little is true. All right. As a fellow teacher, I understand that. Once you look up to your future as a child and you say, I'm going to be a teacher, you never really stop.
Nope.
You're always a teacher.
Yep.
So I totally get that. Were you teaching before you and your husband decided to go into business?
Yes, I was. It didn't look exactly the way I thought it was going to look because right before that was COVID. And we had a lot of adjusting and pivoting that we had to do with our family during that whole thing. But basically, I was teaching English online. I was teaching piano lessons. I was homeschooling
Online?
my no, well, yeah, you can. It's very difficult, but yeah, I was teaching some of my piano lessons and I was homeschooling my kids and just trying to be home but still grow and develop my own skills and also help with our family.
Got it. Got it. And when you guys decided to go into business, what was the first business that you guys attempted? And how did you choose it? And why that?
Oh, man, this is a great question. So we were in Arizona. We were W-2 workers. We just were doing the thing we were told we were always going to do. And we just had that big hole in our heart that just felt unfulfilled. And we just were like, why? Why? We have such a great house and we have a great family and we live in a great place, but we just felt this hole. And we started to dive into different things that maybe we could try that our family hadn't tried before. And real estate investing popped up. And we were like, let's be real estate investors. That sounds great. And my husband and I have very strong personalities where we just jump in with both feet and it's kind of risky. Our family, we stress our families out and it's not even them. Like it's us. They get like stress from listening to our lives. But we decided we're going to walk away from our house. We're going to walk away from our job. We're going to move out of state and we're going to like be real estate investors. We didn't really have a big plan. We had a small plan of we were joining sub 2 and we were gonna be real estate investors. And that was as far as we got. And we just jumped in and Josh started figuring out what a wholesaling business would look like, and if we wanted to do wholesaling, and then we also transitioned for a minute and decided if we wanted to do lending. So we were trying to figure out wholesaling and lending at the same time.
Now, you
Never.
had left Arizona, or were
Yeah.
you going to Arizona?
No, we left Arizona. Like we signed
So
up
this
for.
is for people who don't know, this is a little bit odd because Arizona, particularly Phoenix, is the citadel of Sub 2, which is the mentorship that we're both in and that focuses heavily on real estate. So you were running away from the citadel?
No,
What's going
I
on?
didn't. I didn't know. That was literally how much I didn't know about what we were doing, and Josh didn't know either. Signed. Here's how it happened. We had everything packed up in our moving truck. We were sleeping on the floor because we were going to get in the moving truck the next day and drive out of Phoenix. And we decided that night, like 2 hours before our internet was going to get turned off, we're like, we're going to sign up for Sub 2. So literally the night before we drove out of Phoenix, we signed up for Sub 2. Had no idea we literally lived maybe like a couple crossroads away from Pace. No idea.
That's hysterical.
I know. And so everybody laughs at me now. They're like, hold on. You joined Sub 2 and you left Phoenix? That doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
But yeah, that's how it went.
And where were you going?
We were going to Southern Utah. That was where I grew up. So we had some family there that we could, kind of crash land for a little while. And so we were like, okay, we'll go crash land over there, get our bearings, figure out what we're going to do, and move on with our lives. And so we moved into the wholesaling lending aspect of it. And that lasted a couple of months. And then we realized we don't like cold calling. And we didn't have a good enough grasp on a lending business at the time, and we had to like make a decision because by now it had been maybe 4 or 5 months, and we're like, this isn't working, we got to find something that's going to work. So then we transitioned to a TC business.
Interesting. Very interesting. Before we get to that, which is a big step in the right direction for you, when you guys had decided you were going to do real estate, so it was technically before you joined Sub 2, is that right?
Yeah, we had been messing around with doing wholesaling for a couple of months before that, and we just, like I said, we have very intense personalities, and so we're like, we can't have a job while we figure out how to do this, we should just do it. And then we just walked away from everything.
Wow, I love it. That's what you call a gutso, man.
Yeah, or I mean, I can't decide if it's gusto or if it was inexperience. We'll figure. I mean, I guess only time will tell.
Well, the thing is that at this point, you guys had your 3 children, right?
Yes, when we moved.
That's what makes it gusto.
Yeah, that you definitely got a driver when you got 3 kids that you're dragging along on your adventure with, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fact that you guys have each other and that you were willing to support each other, do this adventure together, that's really awesome. That you're lucky.
Yes.
Not, like out of, I don't know, 100 couples, I wonder how many are on that same path and can really support each other and jump into it together.
Yeah, I definitely
not as many as, not that many. Because people often say, well, I'm in it, but I can't convince my spouse.
Yeah, I definitely got lucky on that edge where, if he's got a crazy idea, I'm usually on board for that. And if I have a crazy idea, he's like, yeah, let's go try it out. So
I love it. What time of year did you arrive in Utah?
It was February.
Kind of cold up there, isn't it then?
So it was in southern Utah, and Utah is one of the weirdest states on earth because the top of the state is really cold and the bottom of the state gets absolutely no snow. And it's like actually really close to Vegas and all that stuff. So it's actually really hot too. So
gotcha.
It was in the hotter part of the state, and thankfully it was a really good time of year to move there.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. I think Illinois is the craziest state in the world. Just because Chicagoland is so freaking cold and my body hates it.
Yeah. I haven't been up that way yet, but I've heard it's really cold.
Yeah. It's whack. It's whack. That's a good way of putting it. So you joined Sub 2, and is that when we first met in the TC trainings?
So I think the first time I saw you was during one of the Gator calls. and I got to
Yeah.
hear a little bit
Oh,
about
yes,
what
yes,
you'd
'cause I
brought
brought
you
you in.
that way.
Yes, I brought
Yeah.
you in.
Yeah.
Way back yonder. Yes.
Yeah,
I
long
do
time ago.
recall that.
Yep.
Yes. So for a little background to our listeners, Gator is another part of Pace Morby's community, and it's the lending arm. And he had started it just then, pretty much. And they were very unruly. They were living up to the name of Gator. And Pace was getting frustrated. And I had somehow decided I was going to just, help these guys get in line by holding a little series of Zooms and showing them how things are supposed to be, and brought people in from sub 2 that were doing different things, but specifically the TCs, transaction coordinators, so that they could understand that they need proper paperwork, there's procedures to follow. This is a business, not just chomp chomp. So, and Ashley was one of the people who had come.
Yep. I was definitely on the same boat as you where I was like, I can't afford to run this as like a hustle. I have to run this like a business. And there was definitely people that, were in different paths in that group for sure.
It was a brand new group. It didn't have its personality yet. Sub 2 already had a few years under its belt, and Pace had been able to get them, in a pattern.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is interesting. And at the very beginning, I think it was Caleb and who else that was holding the Zooms that we could attend as sub twos. We could attend a series of Zooms to learn about being TCs.
There was a small group of them, just depending on, their availability and everything. There was Caleb, there was Love, there was
There you
a
go,
girl
love.
named Heather, was Michael Kim. There was lots of people who had recently started but had a little bit more experience than getting just started.
Right, right. And why don't you tell us what a transaction coordinator does?
Okay. So, in a real estate transaction, the transaction coordinator actually manages majority of the communications and the relationships and the paperwork, because in a lot of real estate deals, especially creative deals, we usually have lots of different kinds of people trying to get lots of different kinds of goals, and it's hard to keep communications flowing. And it's also one of those things where we want to make sure that the deal gets done because we have so many people invested in everything. And so a lot of the way that I looked at it was that my job is to keep everybody on the same page, make sure everybody understands where we're at, where we're going, what we're trying to achieve, what I need from them, what I'm able to provide them, and if I can't provide it, where they could find it.
Exactly. So kind of like a deal engineer in many ways.
Yeah.
Because you had the people who may have been doing wholesaling or who had acquired the opportunity. You may have a middleman or two, or sometimes even three, and then you may have the end buyer, and all these people are like, what's happening? And
Mm-hmm.
title companies are looking, and the aspect of it being creative also is a challenge because some title companies didn't know what they're doing, or some people thought creative, okay, I can do creative, I'll create, and we needed it to be proper and legal.
Mm-hmm.
And as transaction coordinators, you make sure you're the glue that makes sure it goes right, and that these two materials or three materials that are going to be glued together are proper materials that they can actually work. So who hires a transaction coordinator? How does the transaction coordinator get paid for this service that is very valid?
Yeah,
Who pays
these are great questions. So there is just about anybody that could hire a transaction coordinator. You can be a lender, you can be a wholesaler, you can be a buy and hold investor. You can, I've even had some relationships where title companies have like I wouldn't say hired, but they definitely create really close relationships with TCs, and they actually require their clients to use TCs. It's not like they're hired by the title company, but they're getting jobs from title companies. So
Got it.
yeah, but just about
Do
anybody can.
sellers hire them?
There are sellers who hire transaction coordinators depending on what they're trying to do. And there's agents that hire to, there's just, we're everywhere. I think not all TCs are created equal, though. This is one thing probably to say is that if you're doing traditional real estate and you have a traditional certified transaction coordinator, they're probably not as versed on creative if you're trying to do those types of deals. So just keep that top of mind if you're trying to do both.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot like creative real estate itself, TCs that do creative are less known, and therefore it's really important to get the right one.
Yeah. And everybody's always worried that, once you pick a TC that you can't get another TC because you feel like you're cheating on them or something. It's not that at all. It's very much like you need to find someone who fits your personality, who fits your communication style, who makes you feel like they're on the team with you. That part's really important too.
Yeah,
But
people person.
yeah, but to go back to your original question on how TCs get paid, we can get paid in lots of different kinds of ways. I would say the most average way that we get paid is a lot of us will take a deposit on a file that we take because, like Effie was saying earlier, it's not necessarily our deal. We're hired as contractors, so we take a deposit on the work. And then we will go through the transaction with you. And then usually at closing, we'll get the remaining amount for the transaction.
Okay. And that money that's actually given as a deposit and that's paid out at closing can be paid by any of the parties we talked about, right? Actually, not the agent, but it could be the seller. It could be the acquisitions person who's bought the deal, has the seller and bringing it in. It can be a lender. It can be the buyer.
So here's the interesting part. When I first started out as a TC, it was, you're a TC, you get pulled into a file, and you just help everybody get everything done that they need to get done. It's evolved quite a bit over the last 3 years, where now it's no, I have a client, and I help my client achieve their goal of doing that thing. And that's what I'm being paid for. And so if you were my client, I would have my deposit from you for these services that I provide. And if there was anyone else in the transaction who would need me to help them, I'm not obligated to help them with their stuff because every once in a while, like if I was helping you as a wholesaler and then I was helping someone else as a lender, they're going to have something that might conflict with the wholesaler. And then we start to have back and forths. And that's where the service agreements come in saying, I promised to help you with these things. And I promised that person to help with those things. I did not promise to get you guys on the same page.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, you can point out that you guys have an issue here. You can have, steer it in a direction, but the person who is paying you is obviously your client.
Yes. Yes.
Got it.
And it helps to make sure that everybody takes accountability and responsibility for the things that they're in charge of because there were so many times in the early days where I would just beg like a lender to please review all of the promissory notes and all of the stuff that are legal documents that are so important. And they just didn't care. And it was hard where they thought I was responsible. And I'm like, well, but I wasn't hired by you. And so
Yeah,
it's
right.
very clear now.
It's
It's
your
very
money,
nice.
right? You're gonna get the interest, or you're gonna lose the money. It's your money.
Yeah, but in the early days, it was just so interesting to see everybody trying to do these as hustles and trying to just make the money instead of treating it like a business. Where I'm like, you wouldn't go and try to buy a car without, looking at the car and making sure the car is good. And that's how I looked at different aspects of this. I'm like, this is your business. You should read that paper.
Yeah, you should, and make sure that you understand it.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, have you ever been on a transaction on a deal when there's more than one TC?
Yes, I have been on a couple. There's
And
been
what
one
does
where
that
I
look
was
like?
with there was 3 of us. There was one for the wholesaler, I was one for the end buyer, and there's one for the lender. And actually, I love those. I love those transactions so much because I only ever have to talk to the other TCs.
And you guys are all on,
And we're all great. They're taking care of their client. I'm taking care of my client. They're taking care of theirs. And communications flow really well because we're used to doing that kind of communication. The title company gets what they need. We do it really quickly. And everybody's reviewed all the things at least 3 times. And it goes really well.
I'll bet that is a good transaction when that closes because so many eyes have been on it.
Yeah, but there is one thing that gets hard sometimes, and I have been on one of these transactions where there's another TC there who tries to tell me how to do my job and tells me that my client has to do certain things and has to do certain stuff, and I'm like, no, we don't.
Love it. I love it. All right. So the TC status in sub two, first it was just in sub two,
Mm-hmm.
and it grew, and we realized, or Pace realized, being the wise man he is, that this needs to be a separate line of business
Yeah.
on its own.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened then.
So it did start out in sub two, and it was good. It was very new, a lot like Gator. It was a little crazy, a little chaotic, but we made the best of it. We were getting as much education as we could. We had a weekly, once every Saturday Zoom where we would get education, and in an avatar like TC where we are going through files during the week, that was hard because there were a lot of questions and a lot of things we just didn't have answers to that I could reference without being live on that Zoom on Saturday. So I got really good at investigative work, and I started to realize that if we wanted to if we wanted to have reliable sources of education, it was going to have to come from somewhere. And I loved our Saturday Zooms, but I was not I even spoke to one of the TCs when I first started, and I told him, I said, I don't have 6 months to learn how to do this. I was like, I have 6 weeks. And so I started really like escalating stuff and consuming content as fast as I possibly could. And really quickly, I realized that we needed some organized education. So I started making my own trainings in my own team. And then a couple months after that, they
Now, this
announced.
was this your very first team? Because I remember Ashley and I have talked a number of times. I adore her. I want to help her. I don't want to be a TC. I'm not suited to be a TC. But there was a time when Ashley was starting your business, right? That
Yeah.
was the first one
Yep.
that you were starting as a group. And talk to us about that a little bit, because I was so impressed that you were taking the initiative to go out there and do that.
Man. So like I said, I knew absolutely nothing about business. I'd never ran a business, never started a business, none of that. But I do think that just the way Josh and I were approaching this, because of our level of risk that we had taken, I couldn't afford to do this as a hustle. I had to look at it as a business. I had to make it scalable from the first day that I did it. And so I think it was about 4 or 6 weeks into the business. And right around when I got my first file, I actually made my first hire too.
Wow.
I know. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't know any better. I think that was actually a benefit for me, is that I was like, this makes sense. Let's just do that. And I didn't have like the intrepidation factor of like, oh, I'm hiring someone and I have to find a way to pay them now. Like, no, I got really, what's the word? Resourceful. I got really resourceful with how the business was going to work, because I had just started and I had to find a way for it to run itself really fast. Yeah. So, yep, we started the business in June. And by August, I had 2 hires and I was doing their training. And I want to say before October, they were taking their first files.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I remember seeing you on those Zooms, and
Those Zooms.
it's so interesting for me to hear you say that your families, have to deal with you guys like you're a little bit of the crazies in the family, because you're so approachable and you're so kind and sweet that seeing you being aggressive was like, oh my,
Yeah.
look at Ashley, and because you come across, it's, I guess, a secret weapon in a way, because you come across very approachable, very sweet, very kind, and then all of a sudden you bring out a question and you're, whoa, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah. I had very intense questions, and it was lit by a very deep, burning fire of, I have to figure this out because I don't want my kids to starve.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I recall Pace and Molly and everybody who is in those Zooms taking notice. So I was like, yeah, go girl. And before long, it was a regular thing. And I thought to myself, wow. And talk about what happened with that business and how you transitioned, and also how our business has changed in creative financing and TCs and what it is now.
How much time do we have? Because that's a big
I will
story.
stay until at least 9 o'clock tonight.
Okay, well, good. I will try to condense it. We'll do cliff notes of this.
Okay.
So let's see, I got my team built up to 5 people over the span of 8 months doing my business. We were generating all of the revenue that we needed to run everything. We were starting to like make profit, all of this really great business stuff that I didn't understand in that moment. And at the same time, I had started to, as you had said, I'd started to be mentioned and seen by other people doing way bigger things than I was. And one of the opportunities I had was to work with Molly on a deal that Pace ended up getting involved in. And I was the TC for the wholesaler. And so we started brushing shoulders and we started talking about operations. We started talking about TC stuff and business, and they mentioned that they were getting ready to start a course for TC stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, my teacher brain just got so excited because I had been trying to make my own from scratch, but I was also learning how to TC at the same time.
Yep. Yep.
And so I just started telling Molly about the stuff that I had developed and that I had found useful and that I felt was really important. And because I had seen how lonely being a TC was just inside of sub 2, because there's so many avatars and so many goals and things in sub 2 that it was really hard to focus on being a TC and having a TC business in there. And so I got really excited. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I get to like connect with all the other TCs who are just like me, and we get to nerd out about business operations from my side of the world." And so she pulled me in and was like, "Here, here's what I've got so far. Tell me what you think." And we started collaborating on it. And I started, bringing in stuff that I'd thought about and talked about. And then she finished up her course. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And then we launched the community. And it's like, well, now what should we do? And I was like, I'll help. Like, I will help. Can I help? And over a course of a few more months after that, it was right after my 1 year mark with my business that I realized that there were so many people that I could help if I transitioned my identity from being a TC to helping other TCs. And that was a really interesting point in my life. It was really hard because I decided to close my business stores and I decided to let my team go, and I tried to set them up for success, and it was just, I mean, I cried because they had been with me since the beginning, a lot of them, and they'd seen how far we'd gone. And but I also knew that like they wanted to be a TC to have their own business, not to work in my business. And I wanted that independence and control for them. And so it was hard, but I transitioned over to helping manage the top tier TC community with Molly and got to start pouring all my love and failures into all the community over there.
So, what did that look like? I mean, you had a team of 5 people and yourself. You were building your own materials. I understand, you know, um, okay, so at some point, Pace may see this, so I'm just going to say, Pace, I love you too, I do love you. But it's true. If I had to choose between Molly and you, okay, I love you, Pace,
Yeah, it's
but I would choose Molly.
they're such a
Molly's,
great team. They are such a great
they
team.
are a wonderful team. They are a wonderful team. But Molly is so much the yin to the yang.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that myself, I'm a little bit more like Pace, just a little bit. I'm just a neat little bit thing, but therefore, I need what I don't have, which
Yeah.
is a Molly. So I think that would have had to have been a super exciting time. And I remember there was a time that people were saying that Ashli is Molly's Molly, and I thought, oh my God, what else could you ever want to be? Like how freaking awesome is that? what a compliment to you. And what a compliment to her that she found someone that was good enough to actually even be in her shadow. Least of all, be like her and to be that kind of support. I was so stoked for you, and I still very much am. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but it's interesting to see how you went from that to you is on your own, girl. I mean, I think, that there is so much that you have done for the community and for other people. This transition intrigues me, about that you were an entrepreneur helping other entrepreneurs, wannabes, to grow into their own. And then you joined a mega team. Now that meant you had to let go.
Yep. Yep.
And did that move you back into a W-2 type of position, or do you also get some kind of, inspiration? Do you get any kind of ownership? Do
I
you, because if
yeah.
there's, yeah,
Those are really great questions. So at the like my first initial, working with them, I'm just contracting with them. I'm just bringing the value that they find valuable, and it's a really equitable relationship, and it's really good. And I will say that Molly and Pace have always treated me better than I deserved at the time because when I think back to it, it's like I had no business doing what I was doing. But it was also this thing, and Pace talks about it a lot, where people who are really great influencers and really great leaders, sometimes they see things that you can't see yet. And I will say that like the year that I've spent coaching TCs and investors and now other businesses and operations and stuff, it is so true. Is that a lot of times people come and they bring the challenges and the issues and the stuff, and I see a version of them that they can't see yet. And it's my favorite thing in the whole world is to be like, ooh, let's go on this adventure so I can show you the version of you that I already know's in there. You just don't see it yet. And so that was definitely what had happened with Molly and Pace. Is that, I mean, I still remember clear as day at community camp when Molly had kind of been talking to me about helping with Top Tier, and I wasn't certain yet because we had gone through so much to just run our business, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt capped, kind of just like stuck, and I wasn't sure what the unstuck thing was. But I was at community camp, and Pace knew that Molly had been talking to me, and I just wasn't sure what to do. And I remember Pace was like, "Why are you running your business?" And at the time, because of how everything had played out, first of all, I wasn't planning on running any businesses, and I wasn't planning on doing the real estate stuff. That was going to be Josh. TC just happened out of necessity, and I just happened to be able to figure it out. And so when somebody asked me why I was doing it, I didn't really have a good answer, except to say that the reason why I was doing it in that moment was to provide for my family and to help other TCs. Because at that time, before Top Tier, like there wasn't very much. And I hated that.
yes, I
It was
agree.
not fun. So when he said that to me, and I was like, well, I just want to provide for my family. And I really enjoy helping other TCs. He's like, don't you think you could help more people by helping Molly with a community of TCs? He's like, instead of 5 TCs, he's like, you could help 500 TCs. And I had this realization where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being so selfish. If I'm just not allowing, and if I'm not willing to go into this new phase and this new place, even though I can help people, I'm like, that's so selfish. And so they've always been so great and helping me see that part of me that I didn't see yet, and also just like continuing to give me opportunities to grow and develop, even though they were really tricky sometimes. But that's
I
what we
love it.
need. That's what we need. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that's how that. And then after that, it just kind of kept going where like it started with me just doing Top Tier. And then Molly started having me help her with operation stuff. And I was so intrigued and curious about how they worked and the inner workings of everything. And pretty soon, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing about having your own and helping five versus joining a team and helping 500 is I can get the concept of it being self ish, self centered. Yes, I get that. But in a way, it's 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 more self to go and help even more people because it's so much fun. I mean, if you enjoyed helping 5 people, sure, it might be a bit tricky and such, but the concept of helping way more, it's that giver thing that
Yeah.
Pace talks about, right?
Yeah.
So it is giving to a greater degree.
Yeah. And I think my biggest struggle up to that point was that I really struggled to be seen. Like I didn't see any value that I had to bring. And so it was really difficult for me to stand up on a stage and be like, yes, I am here and I can help you all. Where I had to reframe it and I had to reframe my identity of being like, I have experiences with failure in all the avenues and areas you guys are going to experience failure. So let me give you a cheat code to help avoid some of those potholes because I can't help you avoid all of them, but I can help you with a lot of them. And I really genuinely just cared about them getting where they needed to go faster. And like I took this is so funny. I actually am very, very proud of those things where it's like the first 2 people that I hired, they were running files in half the time that it took me to start running my first file. And then the 2 after that were running files in half the time it took my first 2. And then the 5th one, she was running files in half the time that it took my second batch to do it. And it just was getting faster and faster. And I was really proud of that and
Of course.
I wanted it to go faster. And so now we have this community where people come in and they take the course and they're getting their file within like 30 days and they are talking they're asking questions and doing stuff in these Q&As and in these coaching calls where I'm like, are you sure that you only took the course 2 weeks ago? Because I couldn't even formulate that question after 6 months of TC work. And it's just fun to watch evolution of the skill for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. It's the optimization, right? And the synergy that happens. Because when you can see, like you say, you had to kind of fumble. We all had to fumble. Thank God I didn't have to do that kind of work. But it was fumbling, at the beginning
Yeah.
because there were so many that knew nothing. But
Yeah.
as it got better and better and better,
Mm-hmm.
there were people the path was already beaten down.
Yeah.
You didn't have to jump over the grass, to get across the field. You could just follow in the footsteps. And once in a while you'd say, dang, I got a question. Why is it going that way? It should be this way, whatever.
Yeah.
So I can see that. And I can see the excitement of it
Yeah.
and how you can get better and better. Because now I want us to get to the point, if we can, because this
Yes.
is I love your journey. I just love it, of what you guys are doing in the way of training operators now, because it ain't just TC. It's not your mother's TC.
No, it's not your mother's TC anymore. It has naturally evolved to a place of operations. And I don't think anybody really, I mean, Pace probably did because he's like an amazing visionary. But I mean, Molly didn't see it going that way, and I didn't either. And honestly, I didn't even think I was going to become an operator. So it was like a very self reflective moment for me. But yeah, right now, we have a lot of transaction coordinators who are just naturally inclined at business because they're so detail oriented and they just see those patterns and they see those things. And even though they don't have experience in business, some of them, which is really, really interesting, they're just naturally inclined to be able to manage that kind of chaos.
Chaos is a good word.
It's chaos energy. It's not bad. It's just a different kind of energy that doesn't have those restrictions and boundaries. And some people can't handle that, but there are a lot of people in top tier who are naturally good at that. So they start out as a TC, they learn the ropes, they learn the stuff, and then they just continue to develop and grow beyond that because they just keep seeing things that they can fix and that they can help with and we're helpers. Like that's most of what our avatar is. But yeah, so now we're focusing on trying to equip them with the ability to have a substantially, fundamental business that does TC work and can do operations based on what people are needing in their business. And I've seen a lot of TCs who have gone with an investor or a lender into their business operations. They date for a little while, they want to make sure they're a good fit. And then after a couple of months, they're like, we work great together. I love where we're going. This is amazing. Let's go there together. And they're like partners, like Molly and Pace are. And it's so fun to watch these amazing people who come in with little to no experience with real estate. And it's just their personality and their characteristics that make this skill so strong, and they can just go.
So now they're coming into transactional coordinating, and with the guidance and the systems that you guys have placed. And I'd like you to talk about some of those systems and how, how they have been developed, and, what is it that can a TC come in and just be TC and say, no, don't want to go into operations. I just want to do files.
Absolutely,
And I'm not
yes.
interested in anybody's business. I just want to do files.
Yep, they absolutely can. There are plenty of investors and operators who just need TCs that are like, I just need you to be a TC. I need you to be the best TC ever. And there's a lot of people who are like, that's all I want. That's all I want in life. And they're happy. And that's all. And it's a very symbiotic relationship for everybody, because operators sometimes start out doing transaction coordination work and operations, but at some point in order to continue to scale, they have to hire out the TC part, and they need to have somebody there who's obsessed and committed and high quality, so that they can let it go completely and go focus on other aspects of the business so they can keep growing.
Interesting. Very interesting. So if a TC chooses to be, I would say, like a 1099, offering their services for each individual job, then they can choose and pick, whether they want to work with a lender, or whether they want to do, be with a wholesaler or whatever. You can go into different things, different people, different states, whatever they want. And they're guiding themselves in the transaction coordinating.
Mm-hmm.
If they follow the path and show the inclination to do operations, then is there a training in that part, or how do they get to that? Because I know that you and I know Molly just sort of took over, like you just realized you got to do something about this problem, because Pace is going to say, fix it.
Yep.
So you're like, why should I go to him and say, fix it? I'll just fix it. So you're ending up moving from the paperwork itself and there is no, from that specialization to more bigger problems with the business.
Yes. So it's a very interesting journey for every person. Some people understand that they have that inclination, that personality really early. And so they're looking at TC work as really just a tool in a tool belt. And they're like, I'll use it if I need to use it, but that's not my goal for being here. Whereas, like, for me, I was only a TC until all of a sudden it was, oh my gosh, there are these things that need to be taken care of, and nobody's going to take care of them. And I want to take care of them. And so I would say there are characteristics to operators where they have to have a figure it out button. And it has to be pretty strong to deal with that chaos energy, because a lot of those problems and issues and items that you're going to step into, there is no clear answer. And there isn't always somebody that you can go to get answers. You have to just be ready to push all the buttons. And I was so that kid when I was little, of like being like, what's this button do? Oh, what's this button do? Oh, that, oh, yeah, oh, I like what that button. I'm just very curious person. And so when I see problems, I love puzzles and I love problems, because I like to find the solution for them. It's fun. And so a lot of people will naturally elevate their identity from being just a TC to being an operations, more of an operator, because they're like, yeah, I can TC, but that doesn't mean that that's like the best I can do. I can operate just as well as I could TC, and they just need that playground to be able to open up like that. Yeah.
So talk about the systems.
Man, systems. I love systems. I didn't realize how much I loved systems until I became a business owner, which was really interesting. But looking back, when I was, being a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling my kids, and that was my primary function, I still did a lot of systems, and I didn't even realize it until I started having other people relying on them. But it has been such a blast to watch, like, where I started systems for my own team and grew my systems as my team grew, and then stepping into this other realm where I get to create systems for a community now. And we started creating systems for a community to help the community get what they needed and what they wanted. And then I got put into more of an operations role. I'm like, oh my gosh, we get to do systems for like a big team. I can't wait. And honestly, most of the systems and stuff that I've done has come from stepping into a problem, an issue. And I love these. I love these meetings. Anybody on the team will tell you that I love these meetings where they come to me and they're like, oh, I just don't like how this works and it's frustrating and I get angry and I don't know what's going on and I need this and I want that. I sit down there, I sit and I just love it. I'm like, tell me why you're losing sleep at night. Tell me why you're pulling your hair out. What if I had a magic wand? What would you want this to do? And that's all I ask them. And then I have a blast and I go and create something that does that. And it's been really fun to like find solutions that didn't exist yet that help our team scale. Like right now, our team is this, we are managing probably, I don't know, 3 times more projects than we were managing before. But we have a very, like, very tight team for how many for
Big
how
as a team.
let's see, we've got about 9 or 10 of us that run.
Remember when we went to lunch?
Yeah.
And I got to come to
Yep.
lunch with the team?
Yeah.
And Molly invited me, and I was like, what the frick am I doing sitting with all these fantastic problem solvers?
I do.
And remember that?
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
And that was our TC team at the time. And this is what is so curious is that team has been whittled down to just a few elite people doing very particular things. And then we've got other aspects of the team that was able to grow and expand because we had like adjusted stuff and moved around. And this is the power of systems, is that if you have the right systems, it's like having the right rocket, right? If I'm trying to go to a specific place, if I'm trying to go to Mars, I have to have a certain kind of rocket. I have to have a certain amount of fuel. I have to have a certain dashboard. I have to have all of those things. If you don't have those things, the possibility of you getting where you want to go is very slim and it will be very frustrating. But as soon as you have the right tools and you've got the right people in the right seats, oh my gosh, you can take that rocket anywhere you want to go and it's a smooth ride and everyone's happy and they feel good.
Nice.
Yeah.
What software do you guys use?
So we use so this is the part, as I'm like, there's 2 main aspects of systems that are crucial that you must have. The first one is communications, and the second one is project management, right? Because
Explain what you mean by communication software, because sorry,
No, you're just fine. You're fine. You need to have something that makes communications within your team less frictional. Communication is already a very elaborate skill. It's already a very complicated skill because you have to relay feeling, intention, goals in words. And sometimes that's really difficult. Sometimes you can understand something at a level 10, but my communication level is like a 2. And so it's going to just suck. But so communication stuff, you're going to want something that's going to make it easy for your team to talk to each other. And so a lot of people use email. A lot of people use like a chat based service. I really love Gmail because we can get the email and we can get the chats. We do Google Chats within our team. Very nice. And then you also have text messaging, but this is where you have to decide so that your team doesn't have.
Don't do everything, okay? It drives me crazy.
Yeah,
Tell me which platform you're using. Why do I have to go to IG? Why do I have to go to Facebook? Wait a minute. Are you really on email? What's the text for?
Yep. Yeah. And this is something that I learned in my business, was that I had to set some boundaries with communications because I loved all of my clients, but I had many clients. I had more clients than I had me. So at some point I had to say, I really would love to do phone calls unless it's an emergency, and in which case I want you to text me. Like, you have to outline this and you have to do it with your team too. So for us, it's like non-emergencies. We're going to be doing updates on our project management system, which is monday.com.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to try to do majority of our communications there because it's documented instantly goes to us in the way that we want it, where I don't like getting a lot of emails, so it goes to only my Monday inbox, and I'm religious about checking it. But there's other people on the team where they like have to have it sent to their email, and you can respond in your email. It's very nice. We'll talk about that in a second.
Interesting.
Yeah, but we have communications where it's like leave notes on Monday, send emails if you need to. If it gets more pressing or urgent, then we can escalate it to like a chat or a text message depending on the time frame. And if it's very very important and emergency, we should really do a phone call. Yeah. It's taken us a little while to like get these kinds of things refined, but you have to understand though too is it's like people with an amazing team and company like this, they move at 500 million miles an hour. And so what happened was that they had a system and processes and communication that worked really well for where they were at. But when you're moving that fast, it's like strapping an engine to a bicycle. It's like I mean, you can make it work, but it's not a very smooth ride. So the system, there was somewhere where we had to catch the systems up to where our team was so we could continue to keep going.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's communications, and what was the second thing you said?
Project management.
Yes, project
Yeah.
management.
So a lot of business owners, especially in real estate, I find is they don't see a lot of value in project management. They're usually more interested in investing in a CRM, which many CRMs are very, very good. I will say we do not have one, but that's because we run our business different. But actually, no, I think we do have one now. Yes, we do. The lending team does have one. I don't use it very much. But project management though has been like our core foundational tool for over a year, where we have one that allows us to do communications. And because you have to look at so many aspects of your business as projects, like alone, even though there's aspects to it that are relational and based on communication, it's a project that has milestones that have to be met, deadlines that have to be completed, and items that have to be done in a certain way in order to not hate everything in a couple of weeks.
What does that look like?
So we'll use lending for an example. So with lending, we have a project management setup where we have people submit requests to either borrow money or lend us money, just depending on the projects that we're doing and the ones that we're talking about. And it'll go directly into our project management board. And the one that specifically that we have will start creating ways for us to track it so that we usually go in and check these frequently. And when I say frequently, I mean at least once a day we're checking on projects, and we can leave notes in our project management on what's happening or what we're waiting on. We can do statuses on like this one, we're waiting for the title company to get back to us on this or whatever. We also can create items that must be completed to make sure we have a guide. And this is, everybody gets confused. These checklists are not, it's not like a book report where every single thing has to be done and it has to be done in a certain way. This is a guide because we work creative files and you got to roll with the punches sometimes. But
Yes,
we
yes.
have things that have to be done to keep ourselves secure and to keep ourselves safe. And we have a place that ensures that there's a place for that thing, so that I can instantly open a file on our lending board. I can open a file. I can see exactly where it's at. I can see exactly what's the next step. I can see exactly what we're waiting on. I can see exactly where we're going within a matter of a minute. And so it just makes it easy where we have like one person on the team managing like 12 things, because it's
Yes.
so much more efficient. And that's where I'm like, we have our team very like slimmed down because our systems are so robust.
Yes. Is it proprietary? Like it sounds like
Yes.
it's really crafted
It's
and
so we have them. You can get them if you want them. And it's like
so it's like a system that you make available for purchase?
yes, it's available for purchase, and it's
That's
literally just
interesting.
a copy of what we have. And we can hand it over to you, and if you have a monday.com account, you can get it into your account. And we do have like some walkthrough videos, installation videos that can help you get that set up. But the beautiful part about that is that you don't have to start from scratch. That's actually part
Right.
of the reason why we didn't have them elevated sooner was because when you're going that fast, having to create something from scratch that can match that velocity is very, very intimidating. Unless you really like puzzles like me. But and that's just where like we built one that was able to keep up with us and that we were able to grow into. And that's how we were able to continue with our momentum. But yes, you can get a copy of what we have. And for a lot of people, it's like a too big shoe for a little while. But it leaves you so much room to grow because this is the stuff that we use to manage like a lot of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So is it something that can be used outside of real estate, or is it for real estate?
It's primarily created for real estate. We have one that's for a TC business, one that's for a lending business, one that's for a buy and hold investor, like just mainly an investor portfolio business. And then we have one that handles all of the businesses at one time
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people. It's really interesting that they'll start with one and then they want to branch into the others because they feed off of each other. Yeah, we have all of those. We do have one that's just like a general life template because we were managing so many of our projects in this system that we needed somewhere to put our life that was easy to find because we were in this system so much. So
Did you say your life?
yeah, it's like a lifestyle board template system where I have one where I have a capture box where if I'm working, I'm going 100 miles an hour and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have to go to the store tonight and get some toothpaste because we're out of toothpaste." I can go to my lifestyle board that's in my work software and just add it to my capture box and process it later. But it's just like
So it's almost like importing your own calendar, like to important set of things that are important.
so this is the best part about this lifestyle board is that if I realize, oh crap, my daughter has a dentist appointment next Tuesday and I forgot to write it down, I can go to my capture box and put, Kinley dentist appointment and I can put the date and the time and just put that it's an appointment and you can attach your calendar to things like monday.com and it'll automatically add it to my calendar.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
there's a lot of
great.
stuff you can do with this system. I don't even think we do 60% of what the system could do because we're very much on the scene of keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, well, cuz simplicity scales.
No, I know,
Yeah,
I
if
understand. But
yeah.
once you take something and you overcomplicate it, it's like, what'd you do that for? All you're doing is making things harder for yourself.
Yeah, and
For
it's
sure.
hard to tell when something breaks, like what happened. Yep.
Yeah. So that's exciting. That must be fun.
It is really fun. I think it's really fun because when we were working on them and we were making working through how to get this into other people's accounts, I just got so excited because I had to build it from scratch. And I was like, if I was like 3 years ago version of Ashli, I would be so thrilled right now because I didn't have to start from
Isn't
scratch.
that the truth?
Yeah. We
That
we make solutions for the older version of us, don't we? Where I'm like, oh,
yes, we do.
I wish this would
And
have
for
existed.
the
I'm gonna
people
make it.
who are on, right behind, well, not exactly right behind us, but who come behind us,
Hmm.
it's like we're explorers.
Yeah.
And we get there and, sometimes people die, but other times they survive, so others who come behind us.
Sorry, that guy didn't make it this time. It's okay. We'll keep
Well,
going.
not everybody makes it. I mean,
It's
there have
true.
been a lot of people who have been, defeated by the fact that there was no path in front of them. And, I mean, look, we say you come into sub two, you're going to drink from a hose. It's going to be a fire hose. Okay, you can die drinking from a hose. And if
Yep.
it's a fire hose, you might die faster.
Yep.
So the point is that these things are true and they're real. I do think that, like I do one side I feel 3 years ago, because I'm almost at 3 years, right? And I'm like, oh, it was so small and it was so great. We only, we got a chance to get to know each other. And now it's like, I don't know, 50 million of us or whatever. And I don't know anybody except for a few that I knew back then, that we thought there was an advantage to being small. But now, that it's bigger, the challenges may be bigger and the opportunities may be bigger, but so much has already been, you know, uh, just the paths have been beaten.
They have been cleared out pretty well. And now we have people that are stepping up and they're saying, I want to teach about this. I want to help guide more people. I want to coach people through that. And I think as long as we're staying on the very ethical paths of what that looks like, because there are still some people who don't see business that way, unfortunately. But I'm just like so excited because now we have people who have gone through the path, they've cleared it, and they're like, I would like to guide you through this path now. And I love that as a teacher. I get so excited about bringing more people on that journey
Yep.
easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, listen, if you allow, I'd like to just at least share a little bit because we've had, to be honest, a lot of times I think about those pictures, like when, got to bring the pictures in, but it's actually, wait, let's see if Effie can do it.
You can do it.
You can see, we'll see. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay. I ended up being able to bring you on screen, which is good. I wanted to show of the pictures that you sent me.
We're going to have a scrapbook moment, everyone.
Yes, we are, because this is such a cool picture. I just love it. Talk to me.
I can't see it yet. Can you tell me
Oh,
what the picture is? It's okay. I
well,
see purple dots.
It says Riverside is sharing a window. Okay.
Well, just tell me which
Now,
one you picked.
the picture of you have your back to the camera and you're with your little
With
ones.
my little ones.
Yeah, but I also,
Man.
yeah.
So,
but at the same time, I do kind of need to understand so that I can be better.
well, it's coming up. It's coming up. I'm sure it'll
Is
load.
it?
I'm sure it's
Okay.
probably loaded for everyone else. It'll load for me. It's getting there. So my story with this one is that for a long time I felt like I didn't have any value to bring because of the fact that I had never done business before, but then I realized that before I was building business plans or business strategies to help with operations and scaling, I was building lesson plans and I was building systems in my home and I was building futures for my kids and how closely all of those align so much. And I feel like a lot of parents, not just even moms, I think there's a lot of stay-at-home dads now and just a lot of parents don't understand how much value they have to bring to different aspects of business and teams because of that. So that was
I
why I
agree.
picked this one.
I agree. I just love the open space and how you guys are all at that same table. And, the children are engaged and it, like it is such an important part of life that we don't, I'm happy for you that you can do homeschooling.
I am very,
When
very grateful that I get to do that
Yeah,
still.
yeah, you should be. Because when I had Jackie and my son Graham, and they were at that age, I wanted to homeschool. I had an education degree. I felt I was, and of course people might not know, but you got to go under the, local education system. It's not like they just let you run wild with your kids. They do keep track to make sure what you're doing. But there was a different time, and my husband had graduated from the Harvard Business School, and back then they just didn't really think that homeschooling was just for farmers or for people that were doing weird things or stuff like that. He didn't want me to do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of social stigma that goes with it, even today.
Yeah. Yes, although it has changed substantially, I think.
Yes, it
People
definitely has.
recognize it more, and parents are standing up and saying, tough noogies, I'm doing it. Whereas, again, if you're with that partner and you're both together, yeah.
Yep. That's
And
that and Josh went to school to be a teacher too. So we both are really lucky to where we
yeah,
both can teach. We both have that education and it's not quite as intimidating even though I will say like even though we have that, homeschooling is a sacrifice in other ways, because I know a lot of parents are just like, oh, that would be so nice. I'm like, well, there's sacrifices that go with it too, but yeah, it's definitely more
There,
accepted, which I'm grateful for.
yes, yes. And it's extremely time consuming, and it means that you have to dedicate yourself to the children in a different way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I am so freaking honored.
I am so honored. I can still remember the first time we talked. And I remember we did a social media thing together. Do you remember?
Yes.
We did a reel together. I think it was actually like my first reel ever. So it's just
Yeah.
been fun. We've been both on these fun journeys, and now we get to like turn around and take bask in the glory of how how long we've been trying to figure this out.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. It's taken a while. You got to where you're going and your path a lot faster than me. Because I think of a few things. I think those three little mouths that you had to feed. And I wasn't in that position, so I was very much a squirrel, very much like a shiny object, the whole thing. It took me a long time. As a matter of fact, I would say it was not really until the middle of last year where I finally put the blinders on.
It's that is a skill. It really,
Yeah.
really is, to like
There's
sit
so much
down.
to choose from, man. I knew
Yeah.
what I didn't want. I did not want TC, but I came to all those meetings in the beginning when we weren't really sure what we were doing because I wanted to know what a good TC was.
Yeah, I remember having you in
And
those
to,
classes.
yeah, and I'd ask the stupid, dumbest questions.
No such
And
thing
I
as a
remember
stupid
sometimes they're like,
question.
Effie has a question, guys. Okay, let's see what this is going to be.
No, no such thing as a stupid question, because everybody's
I
always
know.
on different parts of the path. And if we forget that, then we need to turn around and like do some reflection on where we were when we were at their stage, because that's not how learning is. Learn failure
Yeah, I
and
know. I
asking
know as a
questions.
teacher,
I know. I'm just like, some of these people, it's so hard because you know that some people, once they get to a certain point in the path, they have a blind spot of like forgetting what it was like when it started, and that makes me so sad because people are already self-conscious about it.
yeah, I know. I know. But I can barely wait to see where we're going to be in another 3 years.
I know. Should we make a plan to do another one of these in 3 years?
Damn, I'm not waiting that effing long.
Okay. Well, okay. How about in like a year? We'll do a check-in in a year.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that minimally we will definitely do that. And I haven't really told too many people, so I'm going to say it now because hopefully there aren't too many people on at this moment. But I will not be going to Squad Up this year. I had hoped I would, but the blinders made me realize that I have to keep going.
Yeah.
I am doing the co-living and I am doing the lending and I have the podcast and it just takes such you know, such an energy.
Yeah. So I'm being coached right now by somebody, and he's very, very, very particular about saying that a no means a yes. So you're saying no to Squad Up this year because you have to say yes to what you've already committed to saying yes to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm already planning that next year I will be there.
And that's because you'll be ready to move into a different thing by
Yes,
then,
yes,
because you've
yes.
stayed focused. You have to be disciplined, and it's not easy to say no to things.
Oh, I know. I understand. I agree.
Yeah.
So thank you for that support. I appreciate it. And it's a date, girl.
Yeah, for sure. I
But
can't
I
wait.
don't think I'll wait a year.
No, we'll definitely be talking to each other. Maybe not on like a podcast, but we'll do a podcast in a year. But no, I'm definitely
Well,
going to talk to you before then.
yeah, well, hopefully, even the podcast.
Yes.
Now we're going to find out whether I can actually end this without losing you. So
Okay.
stay with me. If you do, you'll be the first one.
Yay.
But I will say to everyone, now I know that a lot of people are going to be at Squad Up. I will be still doing my podcast. So if you guys are available, pop in. And not everybody's going to Squad Up. So, we'll be here next week. And yeah, and coming down the pike is, the 2 years. So we're going to celebrate that on the 14th. Mark your calendars.
Yes.
We'll tell you more about it later. Okay, so for right now, I'm just going to stop recording if I can do that.